also. Now let's go, the history of the Greek language. I hope that you've read that. Did you read that? All right, that's good. The history of the Greek language and the history of the Bible. Now we're going to go through the Greek alphabet again. And you guys say with me these things. All right? Or have you got, you don't have yours with you?
I left it at home.
Oh, okay. We'll just say that though. Alpha,
Alpha,
Theta,
Theta,
Gamma,
Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, Eta, Theta, Iota, Kappa, Lambda, Nu,
C,
C,
Omicron, Pi,
Rho, Sigma, Tau,
Epsilon,
Phi,
D,
Chi,
C, Chi,
Chi,
C, Omega. See how easy that was? All right. Now, look over to the right over there, right side of that. Down below, we saw the 7 vowels. We saw the diphthongs last week. And then the rough and the smooth breather. All right? Rough and smooth breathers. Here is this is easy. Okay? This is a rough breather. All right?
Jim, you can't even see it with that pen. You need a dark, yeah, that stands out there.
All right. A pox. All right? Let's look at this. A pox, it would make an H out of this in the front, the rough breather, okay? And the smooth breather is like this, okay, in Greek. And that would be a pox. That's not the way you say it, but that's the way you would say it if it had a smooth breather on it, okay? All right. All right. Now there, when you have a diphthong, we have an epsilon, epsilon. When the epsilon, epsilon, it'll make it a U sound. All right? Purisco, purisco. It has an H on it, purisco, because it has a rough breather, and it is over the second vowel, okay? Do you like this? Is this okay? I just thought I'd throw a few of these little things in here with you as we get going. Is that all right with you?
That's good.
Okay. Now, you've been in class for about a year, and I didn't teach this stuff. I made you teach it, learn it at home or whatever, you know. But anyway, so there we have the rough and smooth breather. Okay. And then we have numbers down here. And then if you look all the way, here's the Greek language terms on the next page. Right here, this one. Okay? Greek language terms. I'm going to put it on camera so they can see it on the camera too. Greek language terms. All right. Here's your first, second, third, and fourth class conditionals. Remember, I talked to you about those. Okay? Now look down here. We're only going to go over a few of these, but Greek actually has a grammar. Of course Greek would have a grammar. It's one of the most technical, absolute languages in the history of mankind. Of course it would have a grammar of their own. Tenses. How do you say tenses there? See that one where it says tenses? Greek language terms. Tense. How would you say that? All right? Tense has the idea of time, doesn't it? So it would be chronos. See that term over there? That's in Greek, is chronos. All right? Declension. All right. And that is klesis. All right? Klesis. Then conjunctions, actually that isn't, that rhema. And then particles, or participles, that is, participles. I para theke. I para theke. All right. Syntax. How do you say that in Greek? Where do you think we got our word from? Look at that word. Syntaxis. Syntax is syntax. That means sentence structure. All right. Cases. Patosis. All right. And adverbs. Epiremata. Okay. Epiremata. And prepositions. Prothesis. That means the place before. All right. Adjectives. Epithete. All right? Adjective, and that actually is the place before also. And the article, to arthrone. All right? To arthrone. Actually, there are no indefinite articles in Greek. Now, this is where you can get your Jehovah's Witness brethren, because they put an indefinite article in John 1:1. What is an indefinite article? You know what they are? That's an a or an and. There is no a there and no and. The word was a God, but it says the word was the God. Okay? And to hieristikon arthron, that is the definite article. And a substantive is a onomate. Our word name comes from that. All right? Nomos is law. Onomate, name. Pronouns, anti, nu, mie. All right? Voice, diathesis. Mode, ekklasis. Verbal nouns, onomata to rematos. Anyway, that's just a few of these. All right? And then at the back of the book, in this little thing right here, I told you that everything is in there. Even a lexicon. Believe it or not. It's a very simple lexicon, but if you look in the very back of it, the last few pages, all right? And the pages aren't numbered, but you'll see here, commonly used Greek parts of speech, all right? And words, all right? Here we have, down here it tells you, and then it also tells you on Zondervan's Analytical Greek Lexicon, it tells you on what page to do it. Remember, I keep quoting the page numbers. ACE, page 119, and page 137, all this kind of stuff. Chi, page 208. Whatever, all of them. I wrote thousands of them down, so that's why I remember. And I could just see it in the book. Ek. See, all of these down here, ano, anti, anothen, all of these things, they have a page number. So if you have Zondervan's Analytical Greek Lexicon, you can go look it up as a quick reference. That's a quick reference in the back of here. So there's all kinds of stuff in this little dinky dude book. All right? All kinds of stuff. And I have really, they want me to teach a class on this little grammar one of these days, but I thought I'd just throw it in now and then. I have done this over and over the years, but I've been teaching Greek here at Valley for 14 years. So, sometime or another I did it in 14 years. But grammar just wears me out. Grammar will just absolutely wear you out. It's a lot of terms and things that it's tiring. It's a form of dragging you to death. They said the worst kind of death was the one when a horse drug you to death, dragging. Well, to me, that's the way grammar was. Hebrews 7 and 16. We've got some real good stuff here tonight. Hebrews 7 and 16. Hos. Kata. Nomon. See that word nomon there? We had that over there a while ago, didn't we? Entoles. Sarkines. Gegonin. Allah. Kata. All right, you're learning how to read this stuff. And dynamin. Dynamin means power, and what's the English word for dynamin, power? They come right out of Greek. Dynamin. Dynamite. Dynamite. All right. Zoes. Ata kalitu. All right, now let's look at this. Who, that's nominative singular masculine relative pronoun, by the way. Nominative singular masculine relative pronoun. Even the pronouns, the nouns, the definite articles, to, hieristikon, arthrons, everything is inflected in Greek. It tells you what part it plays in the sentence. That is the subject. Nominative case is the subject. How many cases are there in Greek? Koine in classical Greek. How many cases?
8.
8. All right. Can you name them? Nominative, genitive, obligative, locative, instrumental, dative, accusative, and vocative. That's the nouns, and the participles have cases. The verbs have conjugations. All right? All right. according to, who, not according to. All right? A little not there, that's an adverb of negation. Page 294 if you want to look that one up. And then according to, preposition. Page 213. You can even go back in your little quick reference there in the back of that Greek grammar, and it'll tell you that. Who not according to law or commandment. Okay? Of flesh. Jesus was not born of the priesthood of Levi according to the flesh. Okay? According to the flesh. Okay? Now, where is Randall tonight? He's not here either.
No.
See, I needed Randall to read from this Amplified Bible here. Let's see, I'm going to let this young lady right there read this thing. Oh, you want to read some too? No? No.
You want me to read it? She's eating a cookie.
Oh, well, in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, she doesn't have to read it right at this moment. Okay? We'll put that on both of you there. All right. Who not according to the law and commandment of flesh it has become, but strong adversative conjunction. Page 15 in the Analytical Lexicon. That Allah, anytime you see Allah, it means a stop sign. But. Stop. Pay attention. All right? But, kata is according to, that's a preposition again, page 213 in the Analytical Greek Lexicon. According to dynamite, dynamite, power. Here it means power and authority. Power, zoes. What is zoes? We looked at that word last. What English word comes from the word life here? When you go to a museum, you look at dead things. When you go to a zoo, you look at living things. Living things. Okay, living things. Remember that. Zoes. And then kata litu. All right? Look at this word. It's got an alpha on the front of it. Look at that alpha. An alpha in Greek, when you have a compound word, an alpha on the front of that means what? Let's go to the word hagios. All right, now, hagios. What is that? What is this thing here?
Is that a rough
That's a rough breather, all right? Hagios. It comes from two Greek words, alpha and gay. And I'm not talking about queers either. Okay? Gay is earth, all right? Earth, not of earth. A saint is not of earth. When you're born in this world the first time, you're born of a earthly father and an earthly mother. When you're born again, you're born from your Father above. And here you are, triune right here. God's triune, isn't He? All right? Now, there aren't three gods. Some people got three gods up there, but I only believe in one God, okay? I'm a monotheist, okay? I believe in one God. He showed Himself to us in a triune nature, and He gave us ourselves so we can understand that, okay? We start out as what? I'm looking at Rebecca over there. What part of you do I see?
What?
Flesh, our body, okay? When we look at God, what are we going to see? The counterpart to our physical being. What is that? The sun. All right? Okay. Now, what gives you life? What gives you life?
The Spirit.
Spirit. All right? When you're born into this world, you have the spirit of Adam in you. And it's also called the spirit of disobedience also in the Bible. So we've got two people living in that house called a body. We got body and we got spirit. And we got nephesh. What's nephesh?
Mind.
Word psychology comes from that word.
Mind.
Soul.
Soul. Oh, okay. Soul.
Soul. Okay. The mind is in the soul. All of you, your personality lives and resides in your soul. Now I can see Yvonne, I can see Marilyn over there, even Dakota. I can see Dakota. All right. And I can know you by your physical being. Now I'm a heathen. You know what a heathen is?
You didn't hear no name?
Huh? I'm an Indian, okay? I'm an Indian. I think like an Indian, and I look at things like an Indian does. That's just the way I am. I'm Indian. Okay? Can't help that. That's what I am. I lived a lot in the mountains in my life and out with nature a lot. And if there's an animal moving in my yard, I know how an animal moves. Now, I don't see so well anymore. I used to see a lot better than I do now. For a blind man, I do pretty good, and for a deaf and blind man, I'm doing pretty good. But when I see somebody and I get to know them, I watch how they move. And when I was coming up in the parking lot tonight, I was way off. And what did I say, Marilyn? That guy moves like so-and-so.
Yeah, you did.
He moves. See, David, you got a way you move. Animals. A fox moves like a fox. A duck moves like a duck. And a cat moves like a cat. And a rabbit moves like a rabbit. And you can see different ways that they move. Okay? That's the way we are. We have a physical way that we move. But people move spiritually. And they move, their souls react in such a way. Can you get to know a person's soul? By the way they express themselves physically from in here. Okay? So you can get to know a person's soul, what kind of a person they are. That's the soul. Now the spirit is what gives you life, but that spirit of disobedience that we're born with is the one that leads us astray. There's a whole lot of spiritually messed up people out there in the world. We see them every day, don't we? They're spiritually contrary. Spiritually contrary to God and to the world and to the other human beings. Contrary. Among the Indian people, we had a person that was called a contrary. He was called a sacred clown, so to speak. He did everything backwards. If you told him to go wash himself, he'd go out there and throw dirt all over himself. Because he did everything backwards. When he got on a horse, he rode the horse backwards. If you asked him, do you want something to eat? And he said, no! That meant he was really hungry. If he said yes, that meant no. That's what they did. Now that sounds pretty crazy, but that's what they did. Wherever they went, they walked backwards. They didn't go forward. They walked backwards. You know what? When man is born into this world, he is a spiritual contrary. David said, from my mother's womb, what did he do? He went astray. Why? Because he had this spirit in him. The spirit of the world in him. The spirit of flesh. Okay? Now, when God saves our souls, from the Old Testament to the New Testament, He X's out that spirit, and He puts His spirit in you, and He dwells in you. And that spirit is what marks you, brands you, earmarks you, and identifies you for the resurrection. And that's what changes your life, too. That's the thing that changes the soul. When this new spirit comes in there, the soul is affected by that spirit, and then the body is affected by the soul. Now, how many of you are there? In all reality. Yvonne, how many of you are sitting there? Just
Physically?
one. Just
Yes,
one.
just one.
Just one. But how are you triune?
Yes.
Yes, you are. If you want to understand the triune God, the best way you can understand it is to look at yourself, because God made you in His what? In His image. It says in Hebrew, in your shadow-casting image, in your Dom image. Dom. What does Dom mean in Hebrew? Dom. Adam. Dom. Remember what Dom means? Blood flowing image. And His blood flowing in, and His spiritual image. Just like this triune right here. Okay? Well, we got the word sarx in here. According to the law and commandment of flesh, it has become, but according to the power of life. Now look at this word alpha here. Now we talked about an alpha on hagios. It means saint, means not of the earth, and we went through all of this to get saint. Okay? Now let's look at this word. Ada, alpha, and then kata. This is where it comes from. Akata litu. It means not able to be destroyed, not able to be dissolved, indissoluble, not able to be taken apart. Okay? Indissoluble. In other words, life endlessly. Now, let's look at that there. Leah, can you read that 16th verse for me there in the Amplified Bible?
Okay.
All right.
Who has been constituted a priest, not on the basis of a bodily legal requirement, an external imposed command concerning his physical ancestry, or on the basis of the power of an endless and indestructible life.
All right. He has eternal life. When did Jesus begin? John 1 and 1. All right, let's look at it. Now, we quoted Genesis 1 and 1 tonight, earlier. It starts off as Barashith, doesn't it? Genesis 1 and 1. Barashith, Bara, Elohim, Et Hashemayim, we Et Haaretz. Okay? In beginnings. That's plural word. In one of the beginnings, He created the heavens and the earth. One time in eternity past, He created the heavens and the earth. But then John 1:1 says, in arche, in, that's a preposition, page 137. All right? In arche. That word arche is locative singular feminine, not plural. In beginning, and then it's ain there, third person singular, imperfect indicative active. In beginning, the absolute extremity of time, nothing further back than that when God only existed. It says, in beginning kept on being hologos. And what is that? That is a Hebraism, hologos. What does it mean? How should you translate it? Jehovah. In beginning, continued to exist, always existed, the Jehovah. And then it says, and the Jehovah, kai hologos, and the word, or the Jehovah, kept on being ain, proston theon, kept on being toward the God. And what it means there, he kept on being inseparable from God. You could not take Jesus and say you're not a God. He's always God. All the time, Jesus is God. Okay? There was never a time when He was not God. He was the God-man. Could you take Him and say He was God only? No. He is Jesus that walked with Adam in the Garden of Eden, was that same person in His pre-incarnate person. Pre-incarnate. What's pre-incarnate? That's a big old word, isn't it? Huh?
Pre-flesh.
Pre? I know I'm not. Thing here. Get some of the stuff off of here. Can't write it in Greek, write it in English. All right, pre-incarnate. All right, pre-incarnate. Let's look at it. Pre means what? Before. I used to love to teach English etymology. That's something that you guys ought to take if you can take it. I don't know whether they even do it. I taught English etymology. Before, in. All right, that's good. Before, in. And then we have carne. Carne in Spanish is what? Flesh. That word carne, that's Latin, and then ate. That means the act of becoming or being. All right, the act of becoming or being. All right, before the act of becoming in flesh. That's what that word means. You can tear down each English word, even anti-disestablishmentarianism. You tear it all down and you're going to, that's a long word. You know, that used to be the longest word in the English dictionary, but now there's words longer than that. I don't know what they are, but that was the longest one when I went to school. Okay? Pre-incarnate means before the act of becoming in flesh. All right, that's what it means. Before God became flesh, became related to us. Now, He became related to us in space and time, but Jesus always existed. All right. Hey, He was a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Now, I brought this out several times in class before. And I'll repeat something 3 or 4 times so you'll really finally get it. And I know how that is because it had to be repeated 10 times before I really got it. Okay? Life is extremely precious to God. Did you know that? In the Old Testament, I don't want to confuse you, but the word life and soul pretty much meant the same thing. It's nephesh. Okay? Nephesh. Now, when Adam and Eve sinned in the garden, God took a life. Did you know that? An animal had to die. Its life had to die for them because He showed them how to sacrifice an animal. Something that's innocent has to die for the guilty. That's the whole story. That's the story of God. Okay? Because God was going to become flesh and He was going to die for the guilty. Simple as that. So all of these animals typified Him. Now the animals, they were supposed to kill the animals as painlessly. Now death is not painless. I want you to understand that. Death is painful. Okay? That's why everybody's afraid to die. That's why animals try to keep from getting killed. Okay? Death is painful. They would take the animal there and they would cut its jugular vein. And of course when you cut the vein, then there's no more blood going to the brain, so that in just a few moments it's dead. Okay? When Jesus was on the cross, they shed a lot of His blood by beating Him half to death. And slapping Him and driving nails through His hands and through His feet. The carpal tunnel in your hand. How many of you ever had carpal tunnel problems? All right? When you have carpal tunnel problem, you just tap on your wrist. Just tap right there in the carpal tunnel. That hurts. They drove nails through His carpal tunnel on His wrist. Right through all of those bones and right through those main nerves in there where everything comes together. And He hung that way. From 9 o'clock in the morning till He died at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 6 hours like that. That wasn't a quick death, was it? That was a terrible, terrible death. All right. The animals, before Israel came into the promised land, the land of Canaan, all the time they lived out there in the desert in Sinai. An animal, if they killed an animal at home, I mean, you think about killing sheep, pigs, all this kind of stuff at home, goats, everything, cows, whatever. whatever you killed at home, and of course they weren't killing any hogs back there because that was not kosher, okay? But if they killed an animal for the food of the family, they could not kill it at home. They couldn't do it. If they killed an animal at home, they were to be killed. There was a death penalty. Did you know that? You could not kill an animal at home. When Israel was out in the wilderness, because he wanted to make sure that that animal's spirit, that animal's soul was respected. Because that animal had its sins confessed upon it, and it died for somebody else. American Indians, when we pray, we say, "Thank you, Father, for the food we have on our table and the animals that gave their lives for us here." I do always do that
Yes, and the fruit.
from the earth. All right? But an animal died. Most of the time when we eat some kind of meat, aren't we? Okay? And when we do, some animal died for us. Okay? All the way from back there in the book in Genesis, life was sacred to God. They could not take an animal's life away from that tabernacle. If they were going to eat one at home, they brought it to the tabernacle, took it in there on the right side of the altar, they cut its throat, and they buried its blood. They gave its blood a burial to respect the animal. Okay? Now, life is sacred to God. All life is sacred to Him because all life means something. Mankind is so far removed from the food we eat today. We don't realize that something, when you go to McDonald's, something died. Okay? It did. You're far away from it, but something died for you. Okay? And in the Bible, that was sacred. Now, in the Old Testament, Abraham was called what kind of a person? He was called a patriarch, wasn't he? That means head father, pater familia in Latin, meshpatha in Hebrew, patria in Greek, all of this. He was a father of the family, okay, the patriarch. Then we went down and all of the children, that patriarch, that spiritual leadership was passed on to his children, okay? And there was an heir. And when God called Israel out of Egypt, He gave them some laws, didn't He? A lot of laws. One of the laws was, every animal that is the firstborn is sacred to the Lord. It is sacred. All right? Sacred to the Lord. And it has, if you're going to keep a donkey, if you had a baby donkey, if it was born, you had to sacrifice because that was the firstborn. You had to make a sacrifice for it. The firstborn is sacred to God. Okay? All the patriarchs were firstborn, basically. Now we ended up with 12 patriarchs, basically, all the sons of Jacob. But when He brought them out of Egypt, He did away, nullified the patriarch way of dealing with mankind, and He called the tribe of Levi to be His firstborn. Okay? To be His firstborn. Now He christened them. He had them come before, all the tribes of Israel come before them. Now, all the other tribes had to go to war. But a Levite couldn't work. He never owned anything in this world. He had no earthly possessions at all. Did you know that? He didn't own anything. He was supported by the rest of the tribes, but he had no earthly possessions. And all of the sons of Jacob, the heads of the tribes, the patriarchs, they came and put their hands upon the sons of Levi and transferred their firstborn right as heirs upon those priests. They transferred it. Just as if They were transferring their sins upon them. They were transferring all their rights upon them also. Just like they would an animal before they sacrificed it. And these, they were holy to the Lord. They were holy to the Lord. Holy. And they had to live differently than the rest of them. They couldn't eat the same kind of food or anything else. They had to be different. Okay? Now, Romans, the 12th chapter. I want you to go to Romans, the 12th chapter. Romans 12, verses 1 and 2. Now, Jesus is our high priest today, isn't he? He's the only high priest we have, not according to flesh, not according to the sons of Levi, but according to an eternal covenant that God had made. Okay? Romans 12, 1 and 2, Rebecca.
I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service.
All right. Every son of Levi was a living sacrifice. Did you know that? Every son of Levi was a living sacrifice. All of those animals that they took up there and they killed them, that's what we call a blood sacrifice. It died. But the sons of Levi were a living sacrifice. They lived for God. I told you last Sunday, we talked about this a little bit, about the Nazarites. The Nazarite was a temporary son of Levi, basically. Nazarite, what did a Nazarite? When you looked at a Nazarite, how could you tell that he was a Nazarite? How could you tell that? They had long hair. All right? The Lakota people, my people, I used to have long hair down here. All right? But the Lakota people, they said God gave your hair for a covering. And when they took the little Indian boys in the Indian schools, which were basically nothing but concentration camps and prisons, they cut all their hair off. They humiliated them. Wasn't good. All right? A Nazarite, when you saw a Nazarite, you knew that he was dedicated to God. He was a living sacrifice. A living sacrifice. He was to be different. Who we know, recorded in biblical history, we have two Nazarites. Who were they? Huh? Samson? He didn't do a very good job, did he? And who was the other one? John the Baptist. All right. Now, when you saw these guys, you knew they were Nazarites. Now, there were a lot more Nazarites than that. But those are Nazarites that we have known, written history of. Okay? Nazarites. Now, they were a living sacrifice. Just think about it. How long did Jesus stand as a lamb slain? How long did he feel the tortures of the cross? It said from eternity past, before the foundation of the earth, he stood as a lamb slain. In the eternal annals of the history of redemption. As a living sacrifice. Why do you think Jesus was crying there in the Garden of Gethsemane? Because he knew what it was going to feel like the next day. He knew. All right? All right. 7:17. We didn't get very far today, but we're working on it. Materete. Gar. Oti. Su. Herius. Ace. Tone. Ionon. Kata. Pain. Toxin. Melchizedek. All right? It is witnessed. Third person singular, present, indicative, passive. It is witnessed, for it is witnessed that you, the priest, unto the age, are eternally, beyond the age, according to the order of Melchizedek. All right? We have the patriarchs. We have the Levitical priesthood. All right? Now we have an eternal high priest. We're progressing. God's plan of the ages, all right? And now, Romans 12, 1 and 2, Read that again.
1 and 2? Both of them, or just...
Yeah, 12, 1 and 2.
I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God.
All right. Now God, the Son of God, the Son of Man, we should really say the Son of Woman, more literally. He's called the Son of Mankind, but he's literally, as Enoch called him, the Son of Woman, the seed of the woman, the promised Savior. We have God's presentation to us and our presentation to God in one man. We're going to see that. Jesus represents us and Jesus represents God because he is the God-man. Inseparable. Proston theon. Inseparable from God. Jehovah, God the Son. All right. Jehovah, he who shall become. He did become, didn't he? John 1:14. All right. And it is witness, for it is a witness that you, the priest unto the age, according to the order of Melchizedek. Psalm 110, verse 4. Hebrews 5 and 6. 6 and 20 and 7 21. And then I have Romans 12, 1 and 2. We see this. Now you are priests. You are, each one of you are a priest. Every one of us are priests. Like the Levitical priesthood. Think about that for a while. We are all priests. God still calls these preachers. Did you know that? That calling doesn't come from... I hope that preachers don't call themselves. I know they do. I've seen some of them. Tried to teach them in the seminary sometime. But we're not called... Their mamas don't call them. Their daddies don't call them. When a person is called to preach, he's called of God. You're called of God. That's the way that is a heavenly calling. But also, every individual is a priest in the world today, because we represent God. Our lives ought to be different. When the world sees us, they ought to see something different than the rest of the world.
And you know, Jim, what's interesting is that we may not always think in those terms, but those of the world always see us in those terms.
That's right.
Because they expect something.
They expect you to be different.
They may say they don't believe in God, but it's really weird. In that one area, they always expect you to be different.
Yeah, they always expect you to be different. I remember Brother Martin Kahneman, one of my teachers. Brother Martin Kahneman preached on the radio and everything. He had one of his church members, a faithful woman. Her husband was an ungodly buzzard. He just, he wouldn't go to church. He wouldn't do anything he's supposed to. And by the way, a man's supposed to be spiritual head of his home. He didn't get out of that because God's going to hold him accountable for it, and I don't care what. He's going to be. He's going to be accountable. Anyway, he finally came out and he was preaching, and the guy was listening to him live preaching on the radio. He drove his car up, ran into like he was going to attack the church. He ran up there, busted through the front doors of the church, ran down the altar, just screaming, and fell and he hadn't even given the invitation. Asking God to save him. And every time that this pastor would go to his house, he would tell them how no good the church members were and that he was as good as any of them. Because they weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. So-and-so's down here doing that, so-and-so's over here doing this, and this guy cheated here, and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And then he gets up, and he asked Brother Kahneman, he said, now what am I supposed to do? And he said, what do you mean, what am I supposed to do? Just do what you've been telling me you're supposed to do all the time. He said, you didn't even need the Bible to tell you that. You just go out and do what you've been telling me. Okay? Yeah, the world knows what we're supposed to be like. Teenagers have a terrible time being different, don't they? It's scary to be different. You got to look like everybody else. You got to walk like they. You got to talk like they do. That's right, isn't it? You know, when I was a teenager, I did those things too. Now, this may sound real silly to you, but you know, the teenage boys, that was a long time ago. I mean, this is in the Stone Age. All right? Prehistoric.
Pretty close on the book.
Okay? We wore 501 Levi's. You know what 501 Levi's
I'm
are?
not going to admit
Okay.
to that.
Huh?
I'm not going to admit to that.
We wore 501 Levi's and white T-shirts. You did not put a coat on in the wintertime. No
No.
way. And you had to roll up the sleeves.
That'd be cool.
And you took your 501 Levi's and you got them about 6 inches too long. You had to do that. And you rolled them underneath. David, this is before your time. You know, I know that. But this is what
I'm
we
not
did.
that old.
Now, I only had about one pair of Levi's. I was so poor that I could only afford 1 or 2 pair of these Levi's. I'm telling you. Okay? Maybe I had one. I know I had one. Now, you went to school with these Levi's. Now, they are real dark blue when you get them. You know that?
Yeah.
Okay? You did not wash them. No way could you wash these Levi's. You had to buy them, and they fit you tight. You never planned on washing them. That wasn't the idea. Now, this is real dumb. This is teenagers back then.
See your mama got them.
Okay? You bought these Levi's. They fit you at the waist, and they were way too long for you, and you rolled them up. And you never washed them. You did not wash those Levi's. When they got dirty, you just took a wet wash rag and you wiped them on you. And you just washed them off. I'm not kidding. And pretty soon they were not blue anymore, they were black and slick. Like they were polished. You couldn't see the threads. And when you took them off, you could stand them up in the corner. They didn't even roll them on anything, just stand right up in the corner. And I'm not kidding you. That's the way. Now, that sounds awful stupid. Now, doesn't it? Oh, how dumb. But now, just look. I remember when I was a teenager also, and maybe, beyond a teenager. They had valley girls, and everybody wanted to talk like a valley girl. Remember that? Well, no. Maybe some of you girls do, valley girls. And they talked real funny. Well, everybody wanted to talk like that. It was cool to talk like that. And before that, it was the surfers.
I'm not going to.
Long time ago, the surfers. You had to look like a surfer and talk like a surfer if you lived in that part of the country. The rest of the country wore these slick Levi's.
Yeah, but I want to ask you something. How did you shine your shoes? I
What?
remember how they
Spit shined them, you know. You shined them. You had to make the shoes just look shiny.
Well, they shine them on
Okay.
the back of their Levi's.
Yeah, well, like this. This is what you did. You won't like that on your shoe, you know. Like that's what they always did. You see a guy standing there and he's rubbing his shoes like that. Okay? That's what they did. We don't want to be different. But God wants us to be different, doesn't He? We're supposed to look like a Nazarite. When the world sees us, they're supposed to see a Christian. We ought to be different. All right. 7:18. 7:18. Are you ready to go? You finished for tonight? All right. You want to look at this? Or do you want to go? All right. Let's look at 7:18 real quick. And we'll probably come back and look at it next week too. Athetesis.
Athetesis.
Man.
Men.
Gar.
Gar.
Genete.
Genete.
Pro aguses.
Pro aguses.
Inteles.
Inteles.
Dia.
Dia.
To.
To.
Altes.
Altes.
Ostanes.
Ostanes.
Kai.
Kai.
Anophiles.
Anophanes.
Okay, that word anophiles there is just like a Anopheles mosquito. That's almost the same way. Anopheles. All right? Athetesis. That means, indeed, canceled, annulled. It's an old legal term which means make void. Null and void. Okay? Null and void. And for indeed, null and void, it becomes, proceeding, advancing, aguses, that means to go before, as it proceeds, a commandment. Through the commandment, is weak, ostanes. That means imperfect, feeble, weak. All right? And anaphylates. Anaphylates. All right? That word anaphylates, that's an unusual word. You have to look this word up in page 1278 in Liddell and Scott, because there's no place else. Okay? The last part of this word, which is ophelio. Okay? Opheles. Ophelos. It means unprofitable, useless. Useless. Now, young lady, would you read that Amplified Bible there in number 18 for me, please?
So a previous physical regulation and command is canceled because of its weakness and ineffectiveness and uselessness.
All right. I saw a cowboy movie one time that I really liked. It was pretty old western. It's called Tombstone. And they made part of that up there where I lived in Nevada when they were making that movie. And I have some stills from that movie, Tombstone. That's where Wyatt Earp had the gunfight at the OK Corral. All right? And at the end of that movie, Doc Holliday and this old gunfighter, this bad guy, they had a shootout. And Doc Holliday said to which was Val Kilmer in the movie, Doc Holliday said to this old boy, "You're no daisy. You're no daisy." That's an unusual term. It means you didn't fit the bill. You're no daisy. Do you know that this word means you're no daisy? That's literally what it means. You want to get down, he said, you're no flower, you're no daisy. In other words, you couldn't cut the mustard, fella. You didn't do it. Doc Holliday was dying of tuberculosis, and he was looking for somebody who was good enough to kill him. And he said to him, you're no daisy. You're not good enough. That's what this term says here, anaphylates. You're not good enough. You can't do it. You're useless, you're unprofitable, you are weak. You're no daisy. No flower. You didn't do it. You didn't make it to blossom out and be beautiful. You just didn't do it. That's the end. Romans 8:3, Galatians 3:21, Hebrews 7:11, Matthew 14:22, and Matthew 21:31, 1 Timothy 1:18, Hebrews 9:26, and Mark 6:26 are all cross references to this verse right here. Beautiful, beautiful words in that thing. Athetesis, annul, that means to stand away, to nullify as a stance. It just remove all foundation, proceeding, advancing, going before. And then we have the word asthenes, that means weak, imperfect, feeble, without energy, ineffective. And then we have the word you're no daisy. Incapable. All right. Now read that for me one more time, Leah.
So a previous physical regulation and command is canceled because of its weakness and ineffectiveness and uselessness.
Useless. All right. Impracticalness and useless. Is this the 18th?
Yep.
All right. I write down in my book when I teach this thing, and that way I'll over and start from last time. Thank you so much for your attention tonight. I hope you learned something from God's Word.
Marilyn, do you need some help?
And let's be dismissed, and we're going to send you out to do something eternal. All right. Let's see. Who wants to dismiss us in prayer tonight? I remember one time, a long time ago, right after I got married to my wife, we went up to a church camp, and Brother Morley and Brother Baker were up there, and Marilyn had hardly ever been in church at all, and they called on her to dismiss us in prayer. And she went white. She turned white. And she said, "Thank you, Lord. Goodbye."
I made it short.
I remember that. All right. Yvonne, would you dismiss us in prayer tonight, please?
Yes. Father, we just thank you for your word. We thank you for the desire in our hearts to learn your word, what you mean, so that we may walk as we should, that we be Nazarites, Father, of your word. Prepare us, Father, for giving an answer as to why we believe what we do, and that is in the name of Jesus. We thank you, Lord, for tonight. We thank you for Jim and Marilyn. And Lord, we pray that we will have an eternal outlook this week. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.